So now that I watched Aliens, I was kind of excited to dive into Alien 3 because I haven't seen this movie in a long time. And I've since seen David Fincher movies after this and kind of heard some of the rumblings about how David Fincher doesn't really consider this one of his own movies and all the backstory about this movie. I've I've actually read the comic that Dark Horse put out, which is an adaptation of the original script for this movie in comic form, or at least one of the original scripts, anyways. And that was a good comic. I enjoyed all that. It was just interesting to see this alternative look in history of what Alien 3 could have been. So I watched this movie, and I really did not like it. I, I think this movie is kind of bizarre because essentially you got one of the greatest directors coming off of the heels of two other of the greatest film directors like of all time. Like if you made a list of like top 50 greatest film directors, James Cameron, Ridley Scott, and David Fincher would all have to be on them. And so him making an Alien movie sounds incredible because he's an incredible director and visionary. The thing was though, this version of David Fincher wasn't really established in the industry. He had basically directed like Michael Jackson music videos and other things. And basically, Fox made this movie. Basically, what they did is they had props made, they set a release date, they had things ready to go for this movie without even having a director or idea where this film wanted to go. They wanted this film made before they even knew where anything about how it was going to get made, which is fucking crazy. I really have never heard any other story like that, but for this movie they did, and so because of that, David Fincher kind of his film got mangled, and it wasn't really his film in the end. And I think you feel that this movie does not feel like a David Fincher movie at all. There's a couple shots and sequences that maybe feel like that kind of David Fincher-esque energy, but not enough to really say whether it was fully him or not either. So I kind of get why he doesn't say that about these movies. I don't know. This might be on a different Alien collection. There's like audio commentaries with like Ridley Scott, James Cameron, like all the different directors who directed all four of the original Alien movies. They all come back except David Fincher. David Fincher did not want to do that because he just did not consider this one of his movies. And for me, I think what bothers me about this movie is one, they did it pulls a Last Jedi, where Aliens has a great setup with these characters, and you really grew to like them as a family in the last movie, and then they're just kind of kill off, and there's not really any story reason for it. It doesn't really add anything, right? And that's kind of what the Last Jedi did a lot of times, where it would take something that the previous movie set up and just kind of go, we're not doing that, we're doing this. And it wasn't really something better in its place. And I feel like that's what this movie did with that. And then also just there's not really any xenomorphs in this movie. Like for most of the movie, it's a pretty slow, boring, uninteresting movie with like Ripley. I don't know how they made Ripley kind of uninteresting. I don't really enjoy any of the characters in this movie. I just really feel nothing for this movie. And I think a lot of that probably does have to come down to like the production issues, because this movie's kind of mangled with. You kind of feel that because it doesn't really feel like any particular vision or anything interesting to it. It just feels like a movie that's kind of there, and it's not really a horrible movie. Like I watched this movie, it's fine. It's kind of boring and just forgettable, which is kind of sad because there's parts of me that wants to like, start off some positive, say some nice things about it, but I don't really have anything nice to say about it because it's not a bad movie per se, but it's also not interesting enough where I'll go, wow, that really works. Wow, this really works. There really just isn't like a single thing that fully comes together, other than, I guess when we do see some of the xenomorphs, they're cool, but still, it's just like, it's definitely not great, unfortunately. Let me know your thoughts on Alien 3 down in the comments down below.